Krishna Prastaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nishesa Sundara Ashtadyadisa
Ashtadyadesha Tadine
Shri Krishna Navunityananda Jayadvaita Swami
Jai Shri Krishna Govinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Abhupana Shri Advaita
Jaya Shri Krishna Govinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaura
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jai Om Vishnupad, Purnamansa Pariprajak Charja Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nama Charja Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Welcome to Shesha Prabhu, to Dwarjit Prabhu, Haridas Prabhu, Meena Devi, and all the devotees. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrta Adi Lila, continuing the purport to text 54. And our format is that at any time, if you have a thought or a question that you'd like to bring forward, feel free, jump in. You're most welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Deen Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Pyevacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In this section of Chaitanya Charitamrta, Kaviraj Goswami is talking about the principle of Guru and different kinds of gurus, Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru. And in the course of his discussion of Shiksha Guru, he brings in the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, the 4 verses in second canto, where Krishna instructs Brahma. And he's following a certain line of argument, but Srila Prabhupada, in his purports to these verses, doesn't concern himself with that. Rather, he comments on the substance of the verses being quoted. So that's where we are. We're on the third of the fourth of these 4 verses. Ritertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyad atmano mayam yata bhaso yata tamaha. What appears to be truth without me is certainly my illusory energy, for nothing can exist without me. It's like a reflection of a real light in the shadows, for in the light there are neither shadows nor reflections. And now we're continuing Srila Prabhupada's purport. That which is relative, temporary, and far away from the absolute truth is called Maya, or ignorance. This illusion is exhibited in 2 ways, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The inferior illusion is inert matter, and the superior illusion is the living entity. The living entities are called illusory in this context only because they are implicated in the illusory structures and activities of the material world. Actually, the living entities are not illusory, for they are parts of the superior energy of the Supreme Lord and do not have to be covered by Maya if they do not want to be so. The actions of the living entities in the spiritual kingdom are not illusory. They are the actual eternal activities of liberated souls. Well, that's the end of the purport. I don't have comments to make. Anyone want to raise any points? Yes.
When it's interesting to me all the times when it's speaking of distance from him, that it's far away. Maya is far away from Krishna, but it's interesting because it's not the same. I imagine it's not the same kind of distance as we're used to.
Physical distance, yeah. Vyasadeva saw the absolute truth and his illusory energy, which was standing behind him. And that was his apasya. Anyway, maybe it'll appear on my screen. That's what he saw. So yeah, in terms of, I don't think physical distance is the point here, but existential difference, light and shadow, or distant from one another. Thank you.
I guess when I think of it that way, it seems like Krishna is not that far away, actually. So you feel some comfort that maybe we're not so far, except by our own choice.
Yeah, except by our own will. Krishna's closer to us than those who are closest to us. Anything else? Yes.
The living entity is dreaming. It's a human. Is that correct?
Are we dreaming that we're humans?
No, the spiritual in the heart, the spiritual spark, the living entity is dreaming that he is human. Are we dreaming?
Yeah. Are we dreaming that we're humans? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. This is a dream?
Yeah. I'm dreaming that I'm this body, that this is my wife, these are my children, these are my family members, this is my money, this is my home, this is my body.
Very similar to when we sleep at night.
Yeah, Prabhupada said that at night we have a night dream and during the day we have a daydream. In either case, because the night dream, you wake up and it's over. And the daydream also is going to be over. This life will be finished, and the whole story of my being, Jayadvaita Swami and whatever is associated with that will be finished.
Isn't it possible to wake up from the dream while you're in the dream?
Yes. We're meant for that.
How do you do that?
Chant Hare Krishna. Anything else? Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam cha tadapashrim. Yeah, that's describing Vyasadeva's vision. He saw the Purusha Purnam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the illusory energy which was standing behind him.
Did that come on your screen just when you desire?
Excuse me?
How did that come on your screen? Was it just your
How did it come up on your screen?
There's a genie. He goes by the name Prabeen.
He's Indian genie.
He's in Pune, and he does these wonderful things.
Your wish is my command.
Okay, next verse. Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chavacheshvanu pravishtanya pravishtani tatateshu nateshvaham. The Lord told Brahma, as the material elements enter the bodies of all living beings and yet remain outside them all, I exist within all material creations and yet am not within them. Purport. The gross material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, combine with the subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego, to construct the bodies of this material world. And yet they are beyond these bodies as well. Any material construction is nothing but an amalgamation or combination of material elements in varied proportions. These elements exist both within and beyond the body. For example, although the sky exists in space, it also enters within the body. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, who is the cause of the material energy, lives within the material world as well as beyond it. Without his presence within the material world, the cosmic body could not develop, just as without the presence of the spirit within the physical body, the body could not develop. The entire material manifestation develops and exists because the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters it as Paramatma, or the Supersoul. The personality of Godhead, in his all-pervading feature of Paramatma, enters every entity, from the biggest to the most minute. His existence can be realized by one who has the single qualification of submissiveness, and who thereby becomes a surrendered soul. The development of submissiveness is the cause of proportionate spiritual realization, by which one can ultimately meet the Supreme Lord in person, as a man meets another man face to face. There's more, but we'll look at this first of all. The material elements, we learn from Srimad Bhagavatam that the universe is covered by layers of these elements. There's a layer of earth, a layer of water, a layer of fire, vast layers. So these elements have their existence, like fire. If we have a fire in our fireplace, that's not that now fire is there and it's nowhere else. There's the broader existence of fire. So all of the elements, air, water, fire, they exist as in total reservoirs, and then they exist within our bodies. There's water there, there's fire, like digestive fire, or when you take your temperature, there's heat. There's earth, or solid elements, earth, water, fire, air, and so on. So all of these elements enter into the body, and yet the elements exist beyond the body. So the personality of Godhead also exists within the heart of every living being. He exists within every atom, and yet he's beyond everything. In the 9th chapter, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyokta murtina Matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shrivastata. All things are within me, and yet I'm not within them. Tata sarvani bhutani pashyame yoga maishara. Just see my mystic power. Ita kasha stito nityam vayu sarvatrago mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstani tyad upadhare. As the sky is existing within space, so everything's existing within me. And as space is beyond the existence of sky, I'm beyond the existence of everything. So, Matstani sarvabhutani, everything's resting on me, yet everything doesn't rest on me. So, what is that? Tadure tadvantike tarantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya payata, the Ishopanishad. That he's very near, yet he's very far. He's within everything, and yet he's outside of everything. So this is Krishna's transcendental nature. Then Srila Prabhupada sort of takes a different turn and speaks about how we can realize the existence of Krishna. And he says the single qualification is submissiveness, becoming a surrendered soul. And to the extent that we become submissive, to that extent, we can achieve spiritual realization and ultimately meet the personality of Godhead. Yeah? Because of his development of transcendental attachment for the Supreme Lord, a surrendered soul feels the presence of his beloved everywhere. And all his senses are engaged in the loving service of the Lord. His eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful couple, Sri Radha and Krishna, sitting on a decorated throne beneath the desire tree in the transcendental land of Vrindavan. His nose is engaged in smelling the spiritual aroma of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, his ears are engaged in hearing messages from Vaikuntha, and his hands embrace the lotus feet of the Lord and his associates. Thus, the Lord is manifested to a pure devotee from within and without. This is one of the mysteries of the devotional relationship in which a devotee and the Lord are bound by a tie of spontaneous love. To achieve this love should be the goal of life for every living being. Another of Srila Prabhupada's realized purports. I'm reminded of the verse concerning Maharaj Ambarish, how he engaged his mind, Savaya Mana Krishna Padada Vinde. Then Vaikuntha, Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunarna Vardhane. Prabhupada sort of appears to be glossing that verse, but it's not in terms of what that we usually hear. Usually we hear, that we're performing sadhana bhakti and engaging all of our senses. But here he's seeing Radha and Krishna, he's smelling the aroma of Krishna's lotus feet. His ears are hearing messages from Vaikuntha. This is all, his hands are embracing the lotus feet of the Lord and his associates. This is all possible or can be understood within the realm to exist within the realm of sadhana, also we touch the lotus feet of the deity, we see the beautiful form of Radha and Krishna. And yet, Srila Prabhupada seems to be speaking of the liberated situation in the spiritual world. In one sense, there's no difference, and Prabhupada makes that point. But we can get a sense of how deep Srila Prabhupada's purport is going here.
What is the difference between true Christ consciousness and true Krishna consciousness?
What's the difference between true Krishna consciousness and true Christ consciousness? Well, in true Christ consciousness, you're thinking of Christ, and in true Krishna consciousness, you're thinking of Krishna.
There's no difference.
On one platform, there's no difference. Because if you think, what is that? I'm not the New Testament expert, but one who's seen the Father has seen me. So in that sense, there's oneness between the Father and the Son. That's why Lord Balaram put Romaharshan Sutta after killing Romaharshan. Sages, after Balaram killed Romaharshan, the sages complained, we gave him a promise that he could live long enough to speak all this katha. Now you've killed him. Well, if you like, I'll bring him back. No, you killed him. You must have, that's what you wanted to do. But we gave him this, so Lord Balaram was kind of in a bind. Kill him and don't kill him, or leave him dead or bring him back. So then sagaciously, Lord Balaram put the son of Romaharshan on the seat and transferred to him the same benedictions, because there's no difference between the Father and the Son. So there's no difference between Christ and Krishna. At the same time, Christ is one individual, Krishna is another individual. We're not that, because there's non-difference, there's only non-difference. Radha and Krishna are not different, but yet there's difference, there's individuality. So Christ consciousness has its specific, what would you say, region or its specific focus, like Ram consciousness. What's the difference between Ram consciousness and Krishna consciousness? No difference. Krishna and Ram are the same. But a person who's in Ram consciousness is thinking of Ayodhya, he's thinking of Lakshman and Hanuman, he's thinking of the conquest of Lanka, he's thinking of all these things. And Krishna's conscious person is thinking of Vrindavan and gopis and Nanda Yashoda and the Jamuna, Govardhan. So there's no difference, and yet there's difference. Kendra raised the point, okay. I can grasp how everything rests on Krishna. I'm having some difficulty understanding how everything does not rest on Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example of Atlas. You know, the world is resting on the shoulders of Atlas, and it's kind of a rough engagement. So Prabhupada says we shouldn't picture it that way. Krishna's at the same, what is that? Namam Karmani, Nachat Karmani. Yeah, there's two verses. That one's one. Could you get me my little red book? Nibadnanti, Namam Karmani, Nachata Karmani, Nibadnanti Tananjaya, Udasina Vadasino. Let's find it. Namam Karmani Nimpanti, that's 4. Nachamam Tani Karmani, Nibadnanti Tananjaya. Udasina Vadasina Masaktam Teshu Karmasu. I'm creating and destroying all the worlds, but I'm not doing anything. And none of this can bind me. I'm seated as though neutral, unattached to all these things. Not affect. I used to, when I was a kid, I sort of had the idea, whether I accepted it or not, that God was some sort of cosmic button pusher. That he's seated on a big throne and he's must have strings or buttons or something by which he's controlling, because he's controlling everything. So there's got to be some sort of mechanism by which he controls things. But no. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. Svabhavaki. His energies are doing everything. Automatically. Svabhavaki. He doesn't have to do anything. What is that? Natasya Karyam Karanam Chavidyate. He doesn't have to do anything. So nothing's resting on him. He can go rasa dance and the world will go on. It's not that if he takes his attention away from running the universe, then everything is going to go haywire. It's simply enjoying. And yet everything is going on under his control, Maya Jakshena. Is that all right? Or you wanted to add something, Kendra Prabhu? Oh, Shesh Prabhu.
Is it that there's some mechanical process at any level? I'm sufficiently involved in the rasa dance. Doesn't have to worry about how things are going, but are things going by some mechanical process?
Well, are things going by a mechanical process? Well, as Mahavishnu, he's lying down and the universes are emanating from his pores. But again, Krishna doesn't have to, he's already expanded himself, delegated. If only our leaders could do that, sort of have an expansion that does everything that they, make succession planning really easy. But Krishna does that. He delegates to his portions, his svamsa, his expanded portions, so that he's able to go on and not even have to think about this material world. That's, the Vishnus are handling that. And then even so there's some, you can say mechanical process, he's breathing. Of course, it's spiritual mechanics, but it's, it's going on. Is that okay? Yes.
This is going back a bit in the reading. It's saying the qualification is submissive. Other places we hear qualification is sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be submissive?
What does it mean to be submissive?
Submissive. And how does that relate to, in other places, saying qualification is sincerity? Is there a difference between sincere and submissive?
There's a difference between sincerity and submissiveness, where they refer to somewhat different qualities. Taking submissiveness first, Bruyu snigdhasya shishasya guruve gurum apyuta. Prabhupada translates it, because you're submissive, Sutta Goswami, your gurus have revealed to you all the secrets kept for a submissive disciple. So there, Bruyu snigdhasya shishasya. The word snigdha means, well, literally it means like slick. But in our Western thought, we think of slick as being like a sharp operator, a little cagey and all of that. But in the Vedic context, or the Sanskrit context, it means malleable, soft, that you can, as against like hard. You can't do anything with this person. Like I was, they asked me to do a first writing ceremony in New Orleans for one little girl over on Sunday. So, I picked up her, I held her hand with her pencil in it, but she's like, you know, her hand was like she knew what she wanted to do. And we finally, she and I came to an understanding. It worked out. But, you know, we're like that, you know, we tend to be stubborn and obstinate, and we have our own agendas, or what's the word? We're nice, we're cordial, we're friendly, we're even deferential, but still we have our own agendas. Still we have our own agendas. But submissive means that Prabhupada said to become a yes man. He said, like, first Arjuna was like a no man. No, I shall not fight. And at the end, he became, yes, I'll do what you say. So that's submissive. Yes, what, you know, it doesn't matter what I think. You're telling me, so I accept it. Yes, Sean.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that it seems to me like submissive requires humility.
Definitely.
That's is that the precursor to being sincere? Can you be sincere without having humility?
Well, these terms are like intersecting terms. You know, we find that in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, different ways of saying the same thing. And so submissive, sincere, I would take to be like non-duplicitous, not having showing one face, but having another. Straightforward, sincere. They converge, don't they? Person's humble and sincere and submissive, and someone else is stubborn and obstinate and hard and difficult to get along with. You know, so these qualities converge. Arrogant, proud. So the demons have, you know, they pride themselves on their meanness, their arrogance, their no one tells me what to do, their single-mindedness, their defiance. Yeah. And the devotees are submissive and gentle. That's another word in that verse, the reserved for a gentle disciple. Gentle, submissive. Prabhupada uses the term malleable, the malleable sons of Pandu. You know, Krishna, the spiritual master, or the Lord can use you as he likes. He can, and you don't complain. All right, you want me to do this? I'll do that. You want me to do something else? I'll do something else. He's submissive. Yes, sir. Is that okay? Venkatesh, I may refrain from being submissive to true knowledge due to bad experiences of their own or of others, fear of stepping into the unknown, or my life just keeps moving on, etc. What can lead me to a higher proportion of submissiveness? How to become increasingly submissive? One thought is by association of those who are submissive. If we associate with those who are arrogant, defiant, mean, and so on, we'll pick up those qualities. And if we associate with those who are submissive, who value submissiveness, who set the example of submissiveness, then we can pick up that quality. Another thought is that by being submissive, there's, I don't know if I want to quote Hamlet, there's, by one act of submission, we open the way to the next act of submission. And then the next, and then the next. So in that way, it's a kind of practice but not just an iteration of something, but a development of a quality that we want to have. I want to be submissive. I want to, so I'll do it. And because I submitted this time, I'm more likely to submit next time, even if it's harder, a greater demand, because now I've cultivated that. I can cultivate it more.
Would you call that kind of like building confidence?
Confidence could be associated with, I submitted and I didn't get, dealt dirty. Krishna was kind to me. Maybe he smashed me, but that was kindness. So confidence, affection, even a feeling of pleasure that it was so nice to put aside my concerns and do something for the spiritual master or Krishna. Gratitude. Health. That's our healthy position, to be submissive. These other attitudes are painful. So when we become submissive, we're in our natural position. Yes.
I think that another element for not submitting is fear. You're afraid.
Yeah, I think Venkatesh mentioned that. Fear of stepping into the unknown. What will happen to me? What will happen to me if I submit to the Guru, or if I submit to Krishna's desire? What will happen? What will happen? The sense that and it goes with confidence also, that yes, I can do this, and be confident that because Krishna said to do it, it will be in my interest to do it. Or I can safely do it. In Varnashram, especially in Vanaprastha life, which I'm trying to work on a book for, there's progressive detachment. First the first one is giving up this, and then giving up that, and then gradually seeing that I can do this, and the world doesn't fall apart. I still get my 4 chapatis every day, or at the end of the day, I'm still okay. So he develops that sense that progressively I can detach myself. I thought that everything depended on my having a secure arrangement that I zealously defended.
Yeah.
And now I can see that if I just trust in Krishna, he'll take care of me. He's taking care of all the other creatures, why not me? It's mentioned as the sannyasi, first he lives like right outside the village. And the villagers come and they, give him some food, and they sort of keep an eye on him, that he's okay. And then he gets the feeling that, I don't really need to do this. I don't have to depend on the villagers. I can venture out. And then he comes to the point of, like Srila Prabhupada, I can go to America with, 7 rupees in my pocket, and Krishna will look after me. Yes.
Isn't that one of the main things about having a spiritual master, is that you don't have to have fear of the unknown? Because you have a spiritual master, that things will only get better, not worse.
Yeah, like a child is, he doesn't know where he's going, but he's holding on to his father's hand, and the father knows where he's going. So the child can feel confident that I don't have to worry. My father is there. There was an incident one time, we were at an airport. Srila Prabhupada was leaving, and so many devotees were there. And there was one little child who was a little boy. He was still in diapers, and he was there, and he began to explore a little bit. You know, he took a few steps away from his mother and began to explore. And he's, with all these giant people surrounding him. Prabhupada said, oh, he is very brave. And then after a few steps more, he didn't see his mother, and his face started to crumple, and he began to cry. And Prabhupada gave this example that, we're, as conditioned souls, we think we can go anywhere, do anything. But when we're connected with with Krishna, then we're safe. Or with the spiritual master, then we're safe. Otherwise, on our own, where am I?
That point that Manaji makes is an informative. I mean, fear, and sometimes it's described as the four problems, the attachment to the living, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is sometimes described as eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing.
Yes.
And
Prabhupada said before, fearing is the most prominent.
Yeah, it's so powerful. It keeps people from taking books. It keeps people from trying to understand that they can actually surrender to Krishna and be safe.
There's a line in T.S. Eliot, do I dare eat a peach?
Say what?
Do I dare eat a peach? You're in some social context, and can I eat a peach? Or what will people think? Do I dare eat a peach? We're afraid that we may do something wrong and then cook our social status.
How will people see it?
Hmm?
How will people think of us?
Yeah, what will people think? So what is that? Sada samudvigna dhyam asatgraha. We're grabbing onto something that's impermanent, and therefore we're always sada samudvigna mana, completely agitated in mind, disturbed in mind. And yes, fear is so strong. It's so strong.
It seems to me that, like it says in Bhagavad Gita, it says, once the mind is peaceful, the super soul is already reached. Now, that seems to be which should be taught, how people can become peaceful in mind, hear the Holy Spirit or the super soul, which Vaishnavas agree are the same thing. If you're in the moment and you're sincere, you'll get perfect guidance in every situation.
Your Prashantatma,
And
Paramatma Samahita.
and if you don't get good results, you can see that you're off.
Yeah.
But if things are working nicely, even with very little intelligence, you're in contact with Krishna through the super soul.
Well, things may or may not work out nicely, but if my consciousness remains Krishna consciousness, then we're not disturbed. All right, it didn't work. All right, we'll do something else. But I'm situated. What is that? Bhayam dvitiya binibeshata syat. The fear results from thinking that there's something separate from Krishna. Dvitiya means the second thing. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshata syat. When we think that there's something else, something other than Krishna, then we're in fear. And when we see that Krishna is always there, Krishna is always protected, then we're, Srila B.R. Sridhar used to say, the whole environment is friendly. What is that? Yomam pashati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashati tasyaham na pranashami sachamena pranashati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost. He's never lost to me. So that when we reach that peaceful situation, Prashantatma, then Paramatma Samahita, when we're Krishna conscious. if we chant with concentration and our minds are not going here and there, then we're linked up with the Paramatma, with the personality of Godhead.
Can you ask the Paramatma for advice?
You can. We'll come to that in the next verses of Caitanya Caritamrta. It's pointed out that Krishna is the Chaitya Guru. He's the spiritual master in the heart. But then it's also said that taking direction from the Paramatma directly may not always work, or that we can't, maybe hit and miss, or we can't, we're not qualified to just take orders from the Paramatma. Therefore, the Paramatma appears externally as the spiritual master. He externally, and that makes things, what's the word? Practical. Means you can do it. That the spiritual, to listen to the super soul, people listen to, they take direction from God within, and God help us. God save us from such people, Who knows what they may do. But one who has a bona fide spiritual master is directed by the super soul, in the sense that the expert spiritual master takes direction from, and he also from his spiritual master, from the Shastra, not simply that everything is, that the spiritual master claims, yes, whatever I'm doing, God is inspiring me, but it's reliable. It's from Shastra, it's from Guru, it's from sadhus. So he's getting reliable direction, not, a batch of wild men who are all, hearing beep, beep, beep from within their heart. Well, okay, Praveen's, looks like he's quoting. It is a material disease. Prabhupada replied, to think that we don't have to bow down. It's a material disease, Prabhupada replied, to think that we don't have to bow down. He demonstrated logically that nature forces each of us to be subordinate, to bow down to old age, disease, death, and many other things. Guest, okay, but who or what should I bow down to? Prabhupada, since you are being forced to bow down, now you have to find where you shall be happy, even by bowing down. And that is Krishna. Your bowing down will not be stopped, because you're meant for that. But if you bow down to Krishna and Krishna's representative, then you become happy. What time tomorrow's class? Tomorrow's class, Friday, 7 o'clock, as far as I understand, right? 7 o'clock, same time, same the Zoom address as usual for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's the story. But we'll be live from Krishna House, and we won't be following our usual sequence of in third canto. We'll talk about something else, but 7 o'clock tomorrow at on our Monday, Wednesday, Friday channel. Thank you for asking that. All right. Thank you to all. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.